What simple mistake has ended lives? There have been too many instances of rock climbers rappelling off of the ends of their ropes, which could have been easily avoided by tying stopper knots at the ends of their ropes. I worked at a tire place for a summer, and the first thing they told me was, see that torque wrench? One mistake with this and you can kill a whole family in a matter of seconds. I thought, well, better take this thing seriously. Therac 25. The world's deadliest software error. Cost several radiation patients their lives by administering lethal amounts of radiation, and for a while, the doctors didn't even know. As a healthcare worker, giving the wrong amount of insulin. Leaving the stranded vehicle on the road in winter and trying to walk to get help. It happens in rural parts of our province once or twice a year, and they find the body a few days later. They get disoriented and freeze. A friend's husband locked himself out of their home. He tried to get in through a window that had security bars. While squeezing through, his foot slipped and he essentially hung himself on the windowsill. Pulling the knife out of someone. Mixing cleaning ingredients. Not being honest with doctors about Viagra. It has many dangerous drug interactions and can cause a lot of problems from what I've heard. Trust me, the doctor ain't gonna judge you guys, they have seen much more embarrassing things. And it would suck to die because you wanted to hide something just for it to be later stated in your death certificate. Almost any simple mistake can end a life if you're an anesthesiologist. That's how my grandpa died in his early 60s. Near me there was a serious traffic collision. Several cars and 2 trucks. 3 people died when one truck plowed into stationary traffic at around 50 miles per hour. The crash and resulting fire was so horrific 2 people were only identified by their dead dog on the carriageway. It was microchipped. It was on the BBC News and have been documentaries about it. The truck driver was on his phone. He was charged and is now in prison. Getting fired up from road rage. NASA executives overriding engineers on the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger. Ignoring signs when cave diving. Bitch, they put a Grim Reaper on it, turn around. Edit, actually, cave diving to begin with. Fucking crazy people. That all heart attacks have the exact same symptoms. They don't. Trust yourself and seek help ASAP if you are afraid that you're having a heart attack. The Herald of Free Enterprise not closing the bow door. 193 drowned. I read an article a long time ago about an aircraft maintenance worker not removing a piece of tape that was put in place to protect a sensor during cleaning. The pilot failed to notice during the pre-flight inspection. More than 100 people died in the plane crash. Some homeopathic medicine for babies still contained deadly amounts of belladonna. Some babies died. Apparently, they did not dilute it as extremely as they were supposed to in homeopathy. People outdoors getting amazed when their hair stands up during a thunderstorm. P.S. It means you're about to die. In 1854, a woman named Sarah Lewis threw a diaper from her dying baby into a London cesspool, resulting in cholera, killing 616 people after it contaminated a popular well. A neighborhood kid I grew up with got his Honda all tricked out. He had an aftermarket remote start on it, back when those were rather new. Apparently the remote start activated while everyone was asleep. I guess the theory was he left the keys in his pants when he fell asleep. Car was in the garage. Entire household, parents, brother, sister, and Isaac all died. Not wearing a seatbelt. Always treat a gun like it's loaded. Going into an unknown body of water, especially at night. Having read all of these makes me feel better that my fuck-ups never killed anyone, at least that I know of. There's something to be said about living a simple life without a lot of responsibilities that could get people killed. Not having a carbon monoxide detector. Not looking both ways when crossing a street. Not knowing first aid. Estimates put 150,000 people die a year because people don't know how or have first aid handy. There has been other studies that shown that large chunk of people could have also possibly survived if they gotten first aid treatment by others or themselves. My neighbor let his 15-year-old drive on the interstate coming back from a Florida vacation because he was tired. He crossed the line, flipped the vehicle, and the entire family ultimately didn't make it. Archduke Franz Ferdinand's driver making a wrong right turn down a side street. I was working alone and fell off a ladder beside an empty shaft where stairs used to be. I fell 20 feet off the ladder down the shaft. I caught myself on a railing that had been left behind and hit the floor below. I got off really lucky. I was bruised up and it took about 20 minutes till I could get up. If that railing wasn't there, I was probably dead because I would have fallen 2 more floors to the basement. Also saw a guy who also fell off a ladder. He was 3 steps up. Smashed his head and got perma brain damage. Grenfell Tower. Kensington Chelsea Borough Council saved £5,000 $6,000 by not installing the slightly more expensive fireproof cladding, and instead used Reynobond PE which, as described by one report, acted like solid petrol in the fire. This caused 72 deaths and hundreds to suffer from homelessness, mental health problems and trauma. Oily paint staining rags will combust. Per the internets. Spontaneous combustion of oily rags occurs when rag or cloth is slowly heated to its ignition point through oxidation. A substance will begin to release heat as it oxidizes. If this heat has no way to escape, like in a pile, the temperature will rise to a level high enough to ignite the oil and ignite the rag or cloth. My dad worked in construction and this had happened on job sites a time or two. Baby in the backseat. I'm in childcare and I'll do some insane things to remember there's a baby back there. Take my shoes off, put my phone back there, dirty diaper as a reminder. People forget. It doesn't matter if you're a mom, nanny, father, nurse, firefighter. It happens. And yet there's always someone who says I'd never forget my baby. And every year babies die because of it. Blood transfusions not being screened for various diseases but now is. Not installing smoke detectors. Thinking you can get past a close semi when you're entering the interstate. Dad. WHYYYY. Treat the ocean like it's just some water. Cutting towards yourself, rather than away. Being on statins for high cholesterol plus a amiodarone for cardiac issues and having a glass of grapefruit juice before going to bed. Smoking in bed. Former paramedic. Misjudging the power of moving water. Not cleaning the lint catcher on the dryer. Not using a fucking turn signal. I once listened to a guy telling the story of how, when he fell down the stairs, he desperately clutched onto the glass of wine he was carrying, in order not to break it, instead of grabbing the railing to stop his fall. He survived with a broken hip, but I imagine lots of people probably have the same weird instinct and some may not be able to tell the tale. Friend was having a beer in a tavern. Some guys came in and started messing with my friend. He moved seats twice and then got up to leave when one of the guys threw a punch. My friend threw a punch back and the guy he hit landed in the ICU and wasn't expected to live. Friend was sitting in jail just waiting for the guy he punched to either die or recover. Turns out the guy he punched recovered. Friend took a reduced charge of aggravated assault. A felony. 1 punch. The most common cause of quadriplegia is diving into water without checking the depth of the water. Always check the water depth before you jump. Not checking and planning for the weather. Shaking a vending machine. Getting in a fist fight. Check on your depressed friends if they're saying they're okay, don't just leave it alone, they could be suicidal.